Miami Gardens, FLA. Miami always has been a frightful place for the Patriots. So it was again last night, with many looking ahead to next Sunday's late afternoon showdown with the Pittsburgh Steelers at a likely frigid Heinz Field. Last night's game in the Sunshine State was supposed to be a breezy tune-up against a beaten-down opponent, playing out the string of another year of failed hopes. No one in New England fears the Dolphins like they used to. Squish the fish no longer is a mantra for Patriots fans. It's an expectation, not a plea. Not among the players, who know better, but among the millennial generation that has no memory of the years of frustration and heartache the Dolphins dealt to the Pats. Last night those youngsters got a glimpse of how it used to be. It was an age-old case of mayhem in Miami, a 2,720 loss that made the road to Super Bowl 52 just a little more uphill than the Patriots hoped. The heat can be stifling in the swampland around Hard Rock Stadium, and although this was not one of those nights temperature-wise, Tom Brady played like it was. He failed to complete a pass to a wide receiver until there were 10 minutes left in the third quarter, and by then, had thrown 2 completions to the Dolphins. He was throwing the Hogan heave to the heavens more often than the shallow cross to open receivers. Consider that for a moment. In nearly 21 halves quarters, Brady completed more passes to the Dolphins than to his own wide receivers. Indeed, it was a hard night at the Hard Rock for Brady, who by the end of the third quarter had a passer rating of 31.4 and only 1 completion to a wideout, an 8-yard check down to Danny Amendola that summed up the frustrations of the evening. The game's final 90 seconds made it even more frustrating. The Pats had the ball inside the Miami 1-yard line with a chance to cut the lead to 3 points. During the ensuing 5 plays, they lost 14 yards before settling for a field goal. What was that Miami madness? For a while, the Pats' defense kept hopes for a victory alive, but eventually it wore down from the 2-pronged assault of running back Kenyon Drake, a heavy load of power and speed, and mercurial quarterback Jay Cutler, who chose quite a night to play inspired football. Cutler managed to direct the Dolphins to a 2,710 lead after 3 quarters that ultimately held up, albeit barely. He did it not only by throwing 3 two-count passes but also by nimbly avoiding the Patriots' pass rush at a number of key moments. Not known for being particularly nimble of mind or foot, Cutler was both when the moments were most important. The defense had few answers for Drake or Jarvis Landry, who caught all 8 of the balls Cutler threw his way, 2 for 2 counts. On one of those, he was so open it appeared the Patriots secondary feared he might have bubonic plague and thus chose to get nowhere near him. But while the score made it appear the problems were universal, the primary trouble was the offense, which gained only 2 yards in the first quarter, 30 in the third, and was a shockingly abysmal 0 for 11 on third down. Yet despite all those failures, when Brady found James White in the flat for a 3-yard 2-count with 13:05 remaining that cut Miami's lead to 10, the feeling of unease among Dolphins fans at the Rock was more palpable than the discomfort Brady's offensive coordinator, Josh McDaniels, felt all night. Would this be a mini-version of February's Super Bowl miracle comeback from 25 points down in the second half against Atlanta, a loss so devastating that it not only cost the Falcons the game, but has left them adrift and on shaky legs throughout this season? Miami has had such underpinnings for years now. Even though they made the playoffs a year ago, the Dolphins have been fish out of water all year. Or is it mammals out of water? Regardless, they were by this point in the season a team led by a would-be TV analyst in Cutler and burdened with a defense more dyspeptic than dismembering. For all the Dolphins' defensive bluster, they more often hurt themselves than their opponents. But that was not the case last night. Just like on so many other long nights in South Florida before trips to the Super Bowl became an almost annual event, the Dolphins were difficult to cope with defensively and at times difficult to fathom offensively. The result was a spoiled evening that dropped the Patriots to 103, a game behind the Steelers in the race for home field advantage in the playoffs. An early winter visit to Miami turned into what too often happens when New Englanders head south for a few days in the sun this time of year. They got burned. Blame the Dolphins, who for one night reminded us just how much we once used to hate everything about Miami but the beach.